episode 23 of the drum stream. We have my friend, soon to be yours, Johnny Steele, probably the best drummer name in the market, in my humble opinion. And Johnny is one of my friends and also one of my compadres from San Diego, California, now living in New York City, recent graduate of the Juilliard School. This is very awesome. Johnny is a scholar. He graduated early from Juilliard. You guys saving money, taking names, making records, making hits. Johnny Steele is in the house, everybody. What's up, Johnny? Tell us what's filling your bucket lately, man. Whoa, Masters. This is news. This is news to me. Heck yeah. What is what what does the Masters entail? Right on, right on. So, man, is it hot out there in New York City right now? Well, well, just to let you know, it's hot as shit out here in California. It is unpleasantly hot. It is, what's that? Dude, I know I'm in Long Beach. I am near the beach. I always equate Long Beach to yeah, Long Beach is like a very similar San Diego climate, but still hot. The water makes it slightly humid, you know. But we got the air conditioners out here. I got the blinds shut. Ooh, I should turn the sick lights on. What am I thinking, dude? Woo! Oh, the, the vibe is. What was I thinking? The vibe is set now. Woo! Yeah, now we're ready. Now we're ready to talk to Johnny Steele. So, if you're here, everybody in the chat, make sure you say what up to Johnny Steele. Uh, say hi to me, please. Tell us where you're from. If you guys have any questions for Johnny, now is the time. We are in the incubation side of our stream today, making sure you, the audience member, are having fun before we get into the drum news, before we get into the interview of Johnny Steele. Man, um, Johnny, I feel like it's been not too long since I've seen you, but it's also been actually a really long time. Like, I don't know, easily 3 years. I'm not sure if I sold you that Yamaha kit before you went to Juilliard or during. But, yeah, bro, how funny was it though when I sent you the picture of the Yamaha thing that I just like found like in my car, the screw for the tom mount. Couldn't believe that, dude. I was like, man, you mean it's right here? Yeah, apologize. Hundred, hundred apologies for that one. But do you still have that kit? Right on, right on. Oh wow. Does do you have your own place to shed out there, or is it kind of like hard times for the drummer? So there's a lot of pad stuff, huh? Hmm. No way. Holy hell. That's awesome. Did I see that you take the bottom heads off it for a second? Yeah, that's what I thought. Very cool. I love that sound. To get some hip hoppy sounds, some dead sounds. Yeah, dude. Mm-hmm. Man, I always like using. Some people like using the big fat snare, but I'm like a big drum tortillas fan. I don't know if you've heard of those before. But yeah, they're like little for everyone who's in the chat. They're like these little cloths, and they're really nice. They look good, aesthetically pleasing. Um, Cloths that are pre-fitted to your 14-inch whatever drum, and yeah, they give you like if you're like really into those old recordings, they used to put these things called tea towels on or like shop rags on their kits and put them down with like clothespins or freaking or tape. But this company kind of is capitalizing on that, but also making them look good. And, yeah, I have like three or four different 14 inches. They're fun, but just full disclosure, you can just get a really bad tote bag and cut out a circle. Same thing, y'all. Same thing. And mm-hmm, mm-hmm, yeah, and just throw it on there. Absolutely. Make your own O-rings that way. Drumming's about being inventive, you guys. Can't reinvent the wheel, but you can save a lot of money if you just look at it and say, "I can do that. I can do that." Talking about all the cymbal companies that are, chopping up cymbals. Stack ring aside, stack ring, you rule, okay? But all those other cymbal companies chopping up stuff. Just take it to your friend that got a metal job. Everyone knows a metal person, I think. Everyone has that person they follow on Instagram that's like a welder. I gotta meet that guy. They can cut stuff for me. Anyway, this is good. Damn, no chats yet, but I know people are here, so say what up, everybody. Hopefully you're doing good. I'm like gonna flood the chat here with some smileys because I know y'all like smileys. Smiley. Smiles for the gram. So yeah, Johnny, tell us what's up. What else is going on in New York? Anything? Are you doing anything else today? Are you gigging anytime soon? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right on. How old are you now? Yeah, baby. Dang, dude. Man, I'm sure it does fly. Amazing. Um. Oh shoot. I hate time. Time should never fly. Let's make that mistake not a mistake. Anyway, let's. This might be a good time. Let's transition. Let's go right into the drum news. All right, drum news, everybody. This is part in the stream where we talk about the drums, we talk about the news and how they cohabitate together. So, first and foremost,
for anyone that's very interested in the Memphis Sound and the early '70s, this is a really good book to pick up, and it just came out by drummer Howard Grimes. For everyone that doesn't know, he was Al Green's drummer, as well as Ant Pebbles. Um, he was a member of the high rhythm section, um, and this book is called it's called Timekeeper, Life and Rhythm, and it features Grimes' a conversation with his collaborator in the book, Preston Latterbach. Talks about, man, just everything kind of going through the important figures in Memphis music. Um, I would say it's probably an awesome book for drummers to check out, but also, big music people. Oh, chocolate rains in the house. The volume is kind of low. How this might be better. Maybe we can get it up there. Johnny's is off all the way. Maybe that should be better. Let me know. Let me know if that's better. Um, yeah, you're good. Say some more stuff. Hmm. Hmm. That is funny. It doesn't. Look at it. It doesn't look like you're. Yeah, you're completely off on the stream. Damn. It's louder now, but I can't hear you on the stream. Okay, let's let's think about this. It's always one thing or the other, isn't it? Let's go to the zoo. Let's make sure all the Zoom stuff is happening. Oh. Remind me later. Whoop. And say something, Johnny.
Yo, hello?
Keep going.
You hear me? Is
Yeah.
it coming through?
Yeah. Keep going.
Okay.
It's
Let,
better.
let's
It is lit.
It is lit? Okay.
Chocolate Rain, where would we be without you? Chocolate Rain's been day one. Saul, what up? Litness confirmed.
Thank you, Chocolate Rain.
My guy. Okay. Let's get back to the news here. I always think it's always unfortunate when drummers pop in the news for medical reasons, but the drummer of Poison, whose name is Ricky Rocket, he has contracted COVID-19. Not tight.
Oh no.
So keep one in there for Ricky Rocket. He says that it's not too bad because he was vaccinated. So he says he got it from his kid who was unvaccinated. But he is quoted saying it would have been way worse had he not been vaccinated. So that just goes to show you guys, you won't die if you get a vaccination. Very, very good there. This was an interesting one too for everyone that's really into the math rock scene and loves bands like American Football. The founding drummer and apparently trumpeter, Steve Lamos, has left the band as of July 17th, 2021. So for everyone looking to get that gig, it's open. Pending that
It's open now. All right.
The drum chair is open, so everyone start shedding your 7, your 9, your 11, all those odds. It's sad. He said I guess he was quoted saying that it was just the right time to move on. Looks like everyone's on good terms. That band kind of has seen a bit of a resurgence in streams, hilariously through TikTok, which is great. What up, Justin? Justin Joyce in the house. San Diego's here, baby.
Justin Joyce, my dude.
Um. Oh, this is also another interesting chair switch, which is so funny. The band that came up in the new metal phenomena, Limp Bizkit, played their first show in
Hmm.
years on July 15th, but they did it without their original drummer, who was I guess one of the more dedicated members of the band. So instead, they got the drummer from Marilyn Manson, who also plays in Black Flag, I guess, and that guy's name is Brand Pertzbarn. Um, and they played this show at what's it called? The show. It doesn't matter what the show is called. They played a show. Limp Bizkit's back. That's hilarious to me. Um,
Hell
but
yeah.
yeah, their drummer didn't show up. No, I'm kidding. They just had a different drummer. That's really interesting. Let me think. Anything else that I had up here? Nope, that was it. Anyone else got any drum news? You got any drum news, Johnny?
Nah, bro. That was all news to me.
Nah, dude. Well, the news is concluded. Appreciate everyone being on here for the drum news. Let's get right into it, Johnny. Man, thank you for being here on the drum stream
Yeah.
again. Let's give you some
Of course. Thank you so much.
claps whenever they show up. So we always kind of start off with, what's, and how did you start with music, man?
Well, I guess the simplest way to put it would be that when I was 7 or 8 years old, my dad he put a set of headphones on my head, and in came Tom Sawyer by Rush. And I immediately fell in love with that band. And then eventually we got the chance to see them live. And I saw Neil, and I saw his crazy circular kit,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw the pyrotechnics and all the fancy stuff he was doing, and I loved it. And from that point on, man, got a drum set. My dad taught me my first groove, a simple backbeat, and from that point on, man, it's just been my life, But that's kind of how it started. Was
Is your
going
dad
to
is
a
your
Rush
dad and
show.
mom a musician, or have you had music in the family before?
Um, my dad, my parents aren't really musicians. I actually grew up in a family of athletes, but my dad learned a beat and then taught it to me as like a sort of father-son bonding moment
That's cool.
to figure that out. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. And then, yeah, they're all athletes. My dad was a soccer player in college, and my mom she coached the Olympic field hockey team a
What?
couple years back.
Wait.
Yeah,
What?
women's field hockey team. Yeah,
Wow, dude. Did they
she
win?
was one of the coaches. I believe they placed. I don't know if they got gold, but I think they placed
That's a resume
when she
booster.
did it. It was back. Yeah.
Wow.
Um,
Fun facts.
yeah,
Did
man.
not know that.
That's how it started.
That's awesome. So, it's safe to say that you kind of came into music through like classic rock and like kind of
Yeah,
the dad rock era. I mean, for better words.
absolutely. It was
Um,
definitely the dad rock era.
So like, when you saw Neil's kit, did you want to like, or what was your that question? What was your first kit after seeing that? I mean, you wanted to like 16 toms and 25 cymbals.
Yeah, man. So I got really creative after that point. I did have a kit growing up. My sister was sort of into drums, but like she was too preoccupied with athletics, and I ended up playing on her drum set more than she did. And it was a Black Pearl export,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like a standard sort of like 5-piece beginner drum set. And what I ended up doing, instead of getting more toms, I just added a bunch of percussion because it was cheaper to get than a lot of like these drums.
That's interesting.
So
What kind of percussion?
yeah. I added like those LP mini timbales as like and
Mhm.
I bought a set of rototoms.
Oh, right
So I did
on.
all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Damn, that's awesome.
And I bought a bunch of cymbals, or I like got a bunch of cymbals for my friends. Some friends of mine were playing music at that time. They let me borrow some stuff. And I just concocted this gigantic drum set. I tried to
That's
figure out how to use it like Neil.
that's killing. I always think it's funny when So you're the younger brother, right?
Yeah, I'm the youngest in the family. Yeah.
I always find it interesting when the younger siblings like play on the older siblings' gear or like watch. Like there's always these stories of like, oh, I watched my older sibling get lessons, and after the lessons were done, I
Right.
went over and I like played what they were learning, and they got all mad because I could play better than them or something like.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Like
then this
the
goes
story with
on.
the Van Halens. Yeah.
What's that story?
Well, Alex actually played guitar, and Eddie played drums,
Mm.
and then I think it was a story similar to that, where like they were someone came to teach Eddie a lesson, and Alex sat down and played exactly what Eddie was trying to figure out, and he got it way easier. And then they ended up switching.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Well, cool. So yeah, so like, tell me a little bit about growing up, in kind of the, like how were you formed into the drummer, like coming up like young Johnny? Like, did you do music in school? Did you just take lessons? Like how did that? Was there any band directors that you had, or like was it just something that a Martian gave you?
Well, you mean pre San Diego, Johnny, right? Because
Well, no,
I
tell
grew
me
up in
about that.
Maryland.
I did not know that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was born and raised up until I was 11 years old. I lived in Maryland, close to Annapolis, in this little town called Severna Park.
Okay.
And the thing with that community was all the star athletes came out of that community. They always ended up going to University of Maryland and playing on the basketball team or the lacrosse team or whatever, or they would go to Duke or someplace like that.
Mm.
And I got run through all of the different sports as a young kid, and none of them really clicked for me. And I would always get into these sort of. I had a lot of free time on my hands as a young child because we lived the place where we lived was sort of surrounded by forest,
Okay.
sort of like Appalachia kind of forest,
Mm-hmm.
and so I had a lot of time to just like experiment with stuff, and I ended up getting into these more like fine motor movement things that didn't require a lot of like running and stuff. So I got into like one thing that I did was like speed stacks. Do you remember those?
And like with cups,
Like those, yeah, the cup stacking thing. I almost broke the world record in that.
dude.
And like, yeah.
Wow.
So I got into that, and then of course I ended up playing on my sister's drum set a little bit, and I was just goofing around,
Did you
man.
yo-yo?
I did. I was big into yo-yo.
And so was
Yeah,
I. Did you do
yeah,
those juggle sticks?
yeah. I did.
Dude. Okay. Let me
Yeah.
keep going down my list. Did you do the Diablo?
What's the Diablo?
Oh, gotcha. Diablo is
You got me.
those strings, this like sticks
Oh
and
yeah, I did
strings.
do that.
All
Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you're a borderline circus performer like me.
Pretty much. Yeah, that was me growing up. And after my parents noticed that, I was still really young at the time. That was actually before I started really playing, like actually sitting down and practicing drums. So I was like 5 or 6 at the time. And my
Mm.
mom would carry around some chopsticks in her purse. So every time we went to a restaurant, I got to play on like the cups and stuff in the
Oh, that's
table.
cool.
Yeah.
Man, yeah,
Um,
knowing your parents, they seemed very, really supportive of the things that you wanted to do.
yeah, man, they really were, and I'm thankful for that, man. Because like, especially in that culture, in that like jock sort of culture, they totally could have been the opposite way. They could have
Right,
made me play soccer or something.
right.
But I'm really happy that they were supportive of that. And man, yeah, and that's kind of what drove us to San Diego, to California.
Yeah, what, so, you mean music drove you here, or,
Yeah, in part because we were trying to figure out a place for me to go to school, and I had just gotten out of elementary school. I spent 1 year in sort of this like performing arts middle school. It
mm-hmm,
was like a magnet sort of middle school, but I
okay,
wasn't really digging it because they wouldn't let me play drum set. And it's sort of so one part of it was we were looking for a place for me to go to school, and the other part was my dad got a promotion and he was allowed to move to the other side of California. Um, and it just ended up working out that we ended up in San Diego, and I ended up going to SCPA.
dang, so, man, what a, what's the word, what a, like, fork in the road for your family and to like to just pick up from East Coast, West Coast, like let's go.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool. So, did you know about SCPA before you got here?
Yeah, man. I did a lot of research, which was kind of funny. I mean, how old was I at that time? 11 or 12. I was looking up schools
Google
to
was
go
hitting
to.
back then, though.
It was hitting. It was. No, man. That's basically how I learned to play drums. I didn't
Yeah.
really have any private lessons. I
Right.
just learned on YouTube and Google.
Uh huh.
And
Cool.
yeah.
So when you got to San Diego, you got to SCPA. We were talking before the stream. You and I had the same teacher. Um,
We did.
when did you start studying? So, for all that don't know, and maybe Justin, I'm not sure if Justin studied with Duncan, but I wouldn't be surprised if Justin didn't take a lesson with Duncan either. Duncan Moore, 100%, one of the greatest educating drummers in San Diego. Took on many of the San Diego drummers, but also is just kind of plays his butt off too. Kind of came up in the '80s with the against all the rock types, but really like stuck to the fusion and stuck to the core of what jazz was at that time. So yeah. So when did you start studying with Duncan? Right away, or did you have to like find out who the drum instructor was and stuff?
No, my first drum teacher was this guy, Bill Ray, who was Paul Gilbert's drummer.
Oh,
And he lived in OB.
okay.
Yeah,
I know Billy Ray. Cool.
yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, so I studied with him for a while, and then he kind of through the grapevine, I ended up getting to know Gilbert, um, and I ended up getting to know Ryan Shaw, and Shaw was the guy that introduced me to Duncan. And that was
Yeah.
when I was like 13 or 14,
Cool.
and then I ended up studying with him. Yeah,
So how long did you study with Duncan?
about 2 years.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah, something like that.
That's awesome, man.
Hmm.
Um, so you kind of led me to my next thing. So as you were, like when did you get into kind of, the jazz vernacular? Was it before you met Gilbert or was it after?
It was actually before. Billy, he kind of showed me a little bit of that stuff. Like he showed me like later stuff, more of like Tony Williams and like the later Tony Williams years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up going to SCPA, and I wanted to play in the jazz band because that was the only way I could play drum set.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I got introduced to John Reynolds, who was the high school jazz band director. And for those of you who are listening, the school that I went to was both the middle school and the high school. And the middle schoolers weren't allowed to play in the jazz band. And I was, I think, in 8th grade at that time, and I just demanded to play in the jazz band. Um,
Did you have to audition?
and he eventually let me. I did, yeah.
Yeah.
I had to audition, and I got in, and he let me play from that point on. Yeah, and that's really how I got into like real like jazz. Like he showed me Duke Ellington, and he was sort of the person that introduced me to Wynton Marsalis later. Yeah, man, that's kind of how it happened.
Right on. So fast forwarding a little bit, I feel like, when I was studying with Duncan, like I told you earlier, like he had told me about you. I think like maybe like he was just like, you gotta watch out for this Johnny Steele guy, man. He's really good. He's gonna come out and just, Duncan. I don't know. He was always good about putting like a fire under your butt in this weird way, but I feel like you came and just kind of exploded onto the San Diego scene, especially at as soon as to in my opinion the San Diego like jazz scene like very much let me structure this sentence better. The scene changed as soon as the jam became all ages. The jam prior
Definitely.
was at 7 Grand, which was a bar, which was 21 and up, which was a great jam. But it was always it had similar problems to its previous iteration at the El Camino, and I'm sure at the previous iteration at Onyx Room. I never got to go to the Onyx Room because I was never old enough. Because that was also downtown San Diego, and went super late.
Yeah,
You know, um, the Rise of Johnny Steele, Rise from the Ashes. Yeah, and so as soon as the jam session got to be all ages, I feel like that's when you just seemed to be at the right age and skill level and experience level to come into that thing and just just whoa, you know, like who is this person? A lot of people came out of the woodworks there because, I mean, I think of, you know, like I guess, like, tell me a little bit about how, to me, I call it the second coming of the Young Lions, because the Young Lions thing that Gilbert had originally was a lot of people in what I would say like kind of like the class younger than me, like the Nathan Collins and the Kyle Myers,
yeah.
and like this class, and I call them class just for generalization purposes. You know, like that class of Young Lion is, and then it came kind of your class, like, you know, the Zion, the Johnny, I mean, even John Murray to me is like in the same class of like, he's like on the younger side, but he's still like in the same thing, like the Jerry and the all these people that were kind of coming out of, and specifically SCPA, you know. So like, can you speak a little bit about how that school, you know, shaped you, man? I feel like it has a huge influence still.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of the people who ended up in the jazz program, they were just sponges for new information. And John Reynolds, the band director, was really good about exposing people to a wide variety of music, man. And a lot of us latched on to sort of like the stuff we ended up playing at Gilbert's Jam, you know, like the sort of hard bop, bebop kind of stuff, and we loved it. And yeah, man, just getting to play with people who had similar aspirations as you was really motivating, because you didn't feel like you were singled out, like how I felt as a musician growing up in a town of athletes.
Sure.
And so I just took that motivation and ran with it as soon as I was afforded the opportunity to, when that jam session became all ages. And yeah, it's kind of funny. We are sort of the second generation of Young Lions.
Well, it's funny because when I went to the Young Lions center, you know, like there's like only like 3 classes up there right now, like class, you know, class photo or something, you know. It shows everyone that was in the thing, and like the first year I don't see you, but the second year I see you, which is, you know, anyway, kind of proves my point a little more. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny how the second Young Lions ended up like coming to fruition. Do you remember Croce's Park West?
Yeah.
That club, Croce's?
Yeah, totally.
So we played there. I played there with Alvin for one of his Young Lions. Like, it was like the pre Young Lions sort of uprising, and played there with Nathan Collins. And that's where I met Gilbert for the first time. And that's when he was like really just starting to put together the Young Lions Jazz Conservatory. And it actually started out as the International Academy of Jazz, which was between him and one other guy that was running it.
Yeah. I was on
that's
that board for a
Zion
second.
And John Murray.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was my one time I got to be on the board of
Zion
directors.
And John Murray.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. Yeah, man. But we all sort of like, I knew Alvin from school, Alvin Page, and Nathan Collins came by to school a bunch of times, and Chaz Cabrera was also at school when I came there, and all those guys sort of funneled me toward Gilbert.
Right.
And then he ended up getting Panama 66, and we played at the jam session.
Right. So I would say that Johnny Steele was a huge staple of the Young Lions, the opening set. But then as soon as, I mean, Gilbert does this thing with all drummers where he like gives you a couple shots, and then he either puts you on the bandstand or he doesn't, and you were fortunate enough to get on that bandstand and be a house drummer multiple times. So like, how has I mean, You know, I'm just gonna throw it out there to Gilbert Castellanos as a whole. That fool just has done so much for the San Diego community, not only for the people, but for just the whole city, putting it on the map and giving everyone the opportunity to thrive. So big ups to Gilbert. Let me get some claps there, Gilbert.
Yeah,
Yeah, Gilbert Castellanos, everybody. We'll have him on the stream one day. Maybe when he learns how to play some drums. I'm kidding. So yeah, maybe like, I mean, talk about maybe something that you remember from those jams. Maybe like a lesson that you've learned, or like just something that comes to mind. Bring us back.
Yeah, man. I think the very first time I played the jam session, not the opening set. That was a real sort of mind-boggling experience for me, because it was the first time I didn't think I would ever end up in that position, coming from where I came from and liking the music that I liked. I didn't think that I was going to end up playing in a jazz quartet in front of a pretty sizable audience at that time.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, those audiences were always huge.
Yeah, they were huge, man. And it just kind of put me on my toes. And I think Gilbert wasn't shy when it came to like really pushing his students. And that first jam session, I was pushed, man. And I really had to get creative and put all of my energy into it. And that's when I realized, man, like this is what it takes, you know, to play a jazz show and get the kind of reaction that we ended up getting from that crowd. I was like dead afterwards, but it was so fulfilling at the same time. That's when it was still outside, you know, it was sort of out in the in that little courtyard area.
Is that the picture from on your website? There's a picture of you. I see it's outside on Panama 36. Was that?
That's right. Yeah,
was
that's
that from
it.
the first night?
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah.
You're kind of giving this face.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the picture that you. Yeah. Yeah. That was from the first night, and it was with Joshua and Rob, and I was like this 13-year-old kid, 14-year-old kid who just started playing jazz.
Of course.
Yeah. So it was a whirlwind experience, but it was a steep learning curve, you know. I really had to up my game pretty quickly if I wanted to keep on playing that gig.
Right. Maybe it was
so
one of the.
Yeah, that was definitely.
Had you had gigs before that?
Go ahead. Yeah, but they weren't jazz gigs. They were all like, I played in a Beatles cover band. I played some like rock gigs around.
Okay.
But yeah, that was my first jazz gig.
Man, right on. That's so cool. Was it the first paying gig?
No, actually, it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Those Beatles cover band gigs, man. That shit paid.
Yeah. Yeah, those still pay.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, learn all those Ringo beats, and
the Ringo beats.
You won't starve.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. Maybe too, like, let's dive in a little deeper on the San Diego influence, kind of digging our heels here. What are some of the other, maybe some other artists or some other scenes that people have seen you or they can find you in the San Diego? I know we were talking about Sahara, and I kind of see her as like coming from the Lestat's scene almost, but like maybe that's overgeneralizing here.
Yeah.
Were you doing anything else except jazz after you kind of like found that, or was it like once you kind of got into that, it was like one and done kind of thing?
No, it wasn't a one and done. I still played other gigs around. I was in a metal band for a while, so I played I played at House of Blues a bunch of times. We played at Soma. It was just like this prog rock, prog metal kind of trio, which was super fun.
What was the name?
And then on top of that, it was called Hawks.
Hawks.
So that was like that kind of scene. Yeah. So I got into that scene a little bit. But the main thing was the jazz scene, and then also playing with Sahara. So, and I met her through a different music school that I was also going to at the time with Glenn Fisher, the bass player,
Hmm.
um, from Point Loma,
What was that
and
school?
that's where Jake Nuffer. It was like it was more like a School of Rock kind of thing,
Okay.
um, but it's just called the Glenn Fisher Music Academy, and it's like right in Point Loma, and it was like right down the street. So I went there for a little bit, and I met Sahara through that, and I met Jake Nuffer, the guitar player, who
Mm-hmm.
ended up being in Sahara's band as well.
Right.
And then we sort of got our way into the Lestat scene, and yeah, that also had a big influence on me, man, in a completely different way. Just getting to dig into the pocket, you know, because at Gilbert's Jam it was like sort of energetic, sort of bebop kind of stuff.
Right.
But then there was the Lestat's Jam and playing with Sahara, and we really got into like the neo soul, Hiatus Coyote, Moonchild kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to try to inject that into both sides of that into my music, the
Sure.
jazz stuff and also the pocket.
Absolutely. Um, one more thing when we maybe, and this will, I think this will lead us to New York a little bit, but something that I know that SCPA is kind of known for is going to this festival in New York called the essentially Ellington Festival. Um,
Yeah.
this is kind of a two-part question, so if you can, just describe to people that are listening like what the essentially Ellington Festival is all about, and then
Hmm.
kind of get into how SCPA like really wins that competition a lot. And the particular year that you were there, I believe, if I'm remembering right, you guys either got very high accolades or you won it, whatever that means, in winning in jazz is. But and that kind of led you to meet Wynton Marsalis, who notable,
Yeah,
very notable trumpet player, runs and has a
definitely.
very big influence on the Juilliard School of Music's attendance roster. So, how, yeah. So,
Definitely.
two-part question is what is the essentially Ellington Festival, and what was it like to meet Wynton Marsalis, and how did he approach you?
Oh man. Yeah. Well, so okay, so what is the essentially Ellington Festival? It's a high school jazz band competition, if that's even a possible thing. Um, where the top 10 best high schools from around the country go and compete in this competition. But it's more of a festival than anything else. Like, you just get to learn a lot. You get to go to clinics with all the different members of the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra. But there is like that one time where you play your three Ellington tunes in front of the other high school jazz band members. And so everybody went through that. We all got to play three Ellington tunes from this particular roster. And we had like, I think the year that I went, we had like Jeff Hamilton and like Ron Carter and like Marcus Printup and those kind of people on the judging panel.
Damn.
And yeah, man. Yeah. So imagine being like a high schooler and playing in front of those guys. It was fun. It was interesting, man. But yeah, that's basically it. It's just a high school competition and festival. So it's the combination of the performance and the clinics,
Uh huh.
getting to like go to master classes and stuff. And so the second question was meeting Winton, right? How did I end up meeting Winton?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up meeting him actually before I went to essentially Ellington. I got into this camp called the Summer Jazz Academy, the Jazz at Lincoln Center Summer Jazz Academy. And
Mm-hmm.
I got in when I was 14 or 15, and we got to study one on one with a lot of the different. I don't think it was everyone from the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra, but it was a lot of them. And Winton was there, and I got placed in his ensemble. I got placed in his group, so we got to have a lot of time together. Just he actually taught me a ton about how to play drums in that style, in like the sort of Wynton Marsalis kind of style.
What is that style?
It's it's kind of hard to describe. It's both. It's like a subtle sort of style, and he has a whole philosophy about how drummers should approach playing in in sort of like a small group jazz. ensemble.
Uh-huh.
He's very much into just like playing the ride cymbal beat and like really digging into that and being like a very sparse comper and only like exerting a lot, only putting like a lot of energy into the music when it's demanded by the soloist, you know.
Sure.
Um, and he really, it was during that camp where I got to learn a lot about that. And then I was able to sort of inject that knowledge into my essentially Ellington performance. And then I got to meet him, I got to meet Wynton, I got to meet Jeff Hamilton after that. And man, approaching Wynton is I guess the first time I approached him, I was obviously super nervous, but he's such a just a understanding guy, and he really loves being around young people and teaching them what he has to share.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, it was just great, and I've had a pretty good relationship with him ever since. It's been really fun.
Right. So, leading into, was Wynton a big proponent in you going to Juilliard?
Yeah, yeah, he definitely was. He gave me a lot of pointers on the audition, um, and just like what to expect from the whole process.
So, yeah, maybe can you speak to that a little bit? Like, what, I mean, Juilliard has to be, if not one of the most prestigious music schools in the country.
Yeah.
What is that audition process like? What is that curriculum like? What is it like to,
Hmm.
um, what is all the prep going into a
Okay.
Juilliard audition?
Yeah. So for anyone who is planning on auditioning for Juilliard at any capacity, I mean, so the big thing is you got to be prepared for a three part audition. So there's the pre-screening process where they ask you to play a couple tunes. They ask you to play a snare drum etude.
Do you play
They
tunes
ask
with
you
the
to
rhythm
do
section?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I was able to get a rhythm section for mine, but I think they accept backing tracks as well. And the thing about the pre-screening is they don't you don't actually send them a video. You only send them the audio files.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to be able to see you, so they kind of treat it like a blind audition.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, so we do all that, and that's the pre-screening process. And then if you get invited to the live audition, there are 2 rounds of that. So you go one day. And they sort of ask you to play similar requirements with the addition of sight reading and more snare drum etudes, and they have a broader spectrum of tunes that they'd like you to play with different styles.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, I was playing in front of a panel of like 5 or 6 people for that one, and they were all faculty members at school. So it was like Kenny Washington and Billy Drummond and a lot of the bass faculty like Ben Wolf and people like that, Gerald Cannon. Um, and Frank Kimbrough, the guy who was piano faculty at that time. And so yeah, I went through that process. And they have a rhythm section there for you, by the way.
Sure.
So they had pianist and bass there, so they got to see sort of how you interacted with them.
Were those students or were those faculty?
They were alumni. Yeah,
Okay,
both of
right
them
on.
were alumni.
Cool.
Yeah. And then if you passed that particular section, you got to go to the callback, which was later in the evening. And it was in a bigger space with more faculty. It was like the whole faculty was there. And Wynton was
No
there.
pressure.
Wynton, yeah, no pressure. Yeah, the whole Juilliard jazz faculty right there
Is it? I mean, is
in
it?
front of your face.
Did you feel nervous or like, I feel like nervousness in these situations are like very relative to your ability, but also like, if I mean, I always feel like when you play with great players, like it's never hard, it's always easy. So like maybe you're
Oh yeah.
nervous before the first note, but that first note happens and you're like, oh yeah, I remember how to play drums. Was it like that, or were you
Yeah.
sweating your tail off?
I think, okay, so I was really nervous for the first round, like the first in-person round of auditions.
Uh huh.
Um, because I mean, I was 16 and it was my first time playing with any professional musicians in New York. So that was sort of like, yeah, I mean, that was pretty nerve-wracking for me. But
You were
the second round,
16 when you auditioned at Juilliard?
I was, yeah, because I
So did
graduated
you get out
early
of?
from high school.
You're just an early guy.
I'm an early guy. Yeah.
Early guy. Love it. Okay, keep going. This is good. This is news to me.
Um, Yeah. So the second round, I was able to calm down a little bit, even though there were more people in the room. I just felt like because I was playing with the same people, it kind of just calmed me
Mm-hmm.
down a little bit. I knew what I was getting into. Um, but yeah, that first round was pretty rough.
Do you remember what
It was
tunes
pretty
you
rough.
played?
Just from um, they were mostly standards, but they had me play like a bossa, and they had me play a mambo, those sorts of like the standard Afro-Cuban and Brazilian styles,
Mm-hmm.
and then in addition to that, yeah, they had me play brushes. They had me play brushes on a tune. They didn't ask me to play a ballad. Um, I don't remember exactly what the tunes were. Um, yeah, so I
Okay.
can't answer that,
Okay.
but
All good.
yeah,
So second round happened, um, and then what's the third round?
yeah. So there was a pre-screening, and then there was the first round, and then the second round is the callbacks. So in total, it's three rounds.
Oh,
Um,
I understand. Okay.
and the yeah. So the third round was just in person again with the addition of some more sight reading and more people in the audition, taking notes. And they also interview you in the second round. So
Mm.
they give you like a 15, 20-minute interview, just to ask you some questions about why you think you're a good candidate to be a part of the Juilliard Jazz Division, and um, like why Juilliard and not another place. That was a big thing. Like, why specifically do you want to go here,
Mm-hmm.
and like what could you offer to this program? Um, so for anyone who may want to be going to Juilliard in the future, be prepared to answer those questions. There's some pretty heavy questions. Like, you really have to think them through.
Did they
Um,
give you the questions beforehand, or did you just have to be a good interviewer and like say stuff
the
off the
main
dome?
Yeah, so the main question, the why Juilliard? Like, why do you want to come to Juilliard and not go somewhere else? And what could you offer to the program? Those were two questions that were given to you beforehand. So you had some time to think about it. But then there were some other questions which I don't exactly remember that they asked in addition.
Mm. So you say Winton gave you
Um,
some tips on how to, get the audition. Did any of those tips talk about this interview?
Actually, yeah. So the main thing that he said with regards to the interview was that you need to sort of stand your ground, because sometimes they'll try to trick you in the audition into playing a tune that you haven't prepared. Um, and so, like, if you end up in that situation, you sort of have to like be firm and be like, I didn't prepare that tune. Or like, if they try to get you to play something in any capacity that you aren't prepared to do, just tell them.
Uh
And
huh.
sort of like make sure that they're aware, and also call them out if they're trying to ask you to do something that isn't even a part of the audition list, because they'll try to do that too, to just see if you're like where your head is at. um yeah, so
Bastards.
that was the main thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll do that,
Wow.
and that was the main piece of advice that he gave me that wasn't music related. The music stuff was more just like, make sure you're paying attention to the ride cymbal. Make sure that you're looking at the band. Um, Nail the sight reading. So practice a lot of sight reading and stuff along those lines.
Hmm.
Those were sort of the main big points that he had to share with me.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
so, fast. What were some of the what was the so obviously you got into Juilliard. We've told the viewers here that you've graduated from Juilliard, but maybe speak
Yeah.
about a little bit about your time at Juilliard. What ensembles did you play in? What did you learn
Yeah.
any new axes? Did you yeah, what is the Juilliard culture like?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just
Yeah.
start with
Yeah.
what
So we
ensembles did you play in?
Yeah. Okay. So my first year, I got placed in an ensemble led by Doug Womble, who's a guitarist. He's a guitarist from Memphis who's really into trad jazz, and so I was in the it was called the Jelly Roll Morton Ensemble. So we played a lot of like early jazz music,
Did he play with you
and
guys?
he did sometimes. Yeah.
Okay.
but he wasn't like a permanent member. We had a guitar player in the group already.
Got it.
Um, and that was a fun group, man. That was with Emmanuel Wilkins and Julius Rodriguez
Oh, right on.
and Phil Norris. Yeah, Phil Norris on the bass, and who else was in that group? Giveton played trumpet,
Cool.
and yeah, Sam Chess, and then Gideon. This guy from the Netherlands, Gideon Tazelar, played tenor. It was a great group, man. But they threw me in the ringer with that group, dude, because those guys had already been there for a couple years, and I just had to. That was another steep learning curve moment where I just sort of had to really elevate my game and pay attention
Sure.
just to be in there. Yeah, and then the next group I played in was Bruce Williams' group. Bruce Williams is the lead alto player for the Roy Hargrove Big Band,
Okay.
and yeah, I got to play in that group, and we went to Brazil. Actually, we got the chance to travel, which that's one of the really cool things about going to Juilliard is they give you a lot of travel opportunities,
Uh-huh.
and so I got the chance to go to Brazil for a week and play with some of the people down there, do master classes,
Like all
also
expenses
learn.
paid. Go to Brazil or
All
like
expenses paid. Yeah, no,
Woo!
all expenses paid. Yeah, everything's paid.
Right on.
Um, you get put up in a hotel, and you get a stipend, or like you get some money to like go. Like I
Yeah,
bought a couple Ponderos
like a
while I
per
was there.
diem. Yeah.
Yeah, per diem. There you go. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So I got the chance to do that, which was really sweet. And actually, in my first year, I got the chance to go to Amsterdam with that group, with Doug Womble, and we did this competition in the Netherlands called Keep an Eye, which is sort of like the essentially Ellington, but for college small ensembles, and it's an international thing.
Got it.
Um, and let's see, yeah. So the next group I played in was with Roxy Koss as a leader, um, and she's a new addition to the faculty. This wonderful tenor player. And then I got put in Ulysses' group this past year, Ulysses Owens Jr.
Mm.
Yeah,
And he was your teacher primarily, right?
he was. Yeah, well, he was. It's kind of interesting. He wasn't listed as my drum teacher, but he sort of functioned as that. He's my ensemble teacher, but I also took lessons with Billy Drummond during the year,
Okay, cool.
and so he was listed as my primary drum teacher.
And
Yeah.
do you stay with your primary instructor like that for your duration of your
No, you
time?
don't. You don't have to. No, you don't have to.
Okay,
Some people do. Like I have a friend who's been with Kenny Washington for the whole 4 years.
that's
Um,
understandable.
but yeah, but they ask at the I guess in like I'll be getting this call in August. The dean of the jazz department, the associate dean Aaron Flagg, he'll call us up and be like, "Hey, who do you want to study with?" And you don't even have to study with people in the jazz department. Um, if you want to split lessons, you can do that. So this past year, I studied with Billy Drummond and Gerald Cannon, the bass player,
Mm.
um,
What did you?
and I got to
I'm
play with
curious. What
him.
did you learn? And because I love studying with other people that aren't on your axe on your main instrument. What did you get to
Yeah,
learn from the bass from your bass teacher from that bass teacher?
just what bass players are really listening for.
Uh,
Um,
so you guys did a lot of
and
playing.
we did a lot of playing, and we did a lot of analysis too of records, just to sort of, and we really focused in on the bass drum connection and how there are so many different ways to feel the quarter note, and who in sort of the jazz canon feels the quarter note and in what way.
Can you speak to this a little
Um,
bit? I'm
yeah,
interested in this
yeah,
topic. What does that mean to different ways to feel the quarter note or different? Yeah, speak to that a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit.
So what, something that Gerald would always talk to me about is keeping your quarter note long. And he didn't have a lot of drum knowledge, so he wasn't really sure how to apply that. So it ended up being more of a relaxation thing than anything else. But he would always point out when we were listening to records, like listen to the bass player's note. You don't want to like chop down on a ride cymbal when your bass player is playing this long, beautiful note. You don't want to cover that up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you just want to relax into that sort of long, open quarter note, and don't really think of it so metronomically. Like he wasn't into digital metronomes, so we never practiced with digital metronomes. He always had the old school sort of tactile swinging metronome.
Okay.
Um, And one of the things that he really drilled into my head was that you have to think of the beat as being round. You can't think of it as being horizontal or sharp. You
Sure.
want to think of it as being round. And in doing that, and in like looking at, like really physically looking at the metronome and how it swings back and forth, it just relaxes you. You just sort of get to like chill out a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to feel the bass time more, you know. Um,
So it sounds to me like
yeah,
you got to more of the connecting with another, instrumentalist, specifically rhythm section, which is very, you know, um, it's good to do. It's you can get the
yeah,
same thing about, I mean, I remember something that similar to what you're doing is, I would go over to Rob's house, Rob Thorson's house, and we would,
yeah, yeah.
or play duo or play, the first time I ever
Hmm.
played with Rob, it was just duo, you know, like I was maybe
Oh,
19
nice.
or something, and I went over and just got to play with him. And that was my whole purpose, was to play with someone like him that could teach me something that's maybe not about the drums, which is to me
Hmm.
like something that's really, man, I just think that's something everyone should do, is take a lesson with someone that's not on their axe, because they'll end up telling you things that relate to them and not to you, but ways that you can.
Exactly.
Um, I like that whole thing about the listening to the bass player and have them inform your playing rather than you inform the bass player's playing. I think is really interesting.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just sort of like, I don't know. I mean, drummers, we like to think of ourselves as the leaders of the group and like the backbone of the group and everything. But in a jazz setting, and I realized this from playing with Gerald, is that it's a collaborative effort. You know, the backbone itself of the group is the
Mm-hmm.
drums and the bass. You
Oh
know,
yeah, yeah.
um, um, and yeah, just having that in my head has really helped me. Even just playing out at a jam session or anything, you let the bass player inform you instead of you always trying to, take the wheel. You know.
Right. Sometimes though, I mean, how do you what do you say, if I can push on that a little bit? Like,
Yeah, push it. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like a good band has a good drummer, and
Oh yeah.
not a great band has not a great drummer. So like, um, I always say this too. Like, there's music that makes you dance, and there's music that makes you listen to the drummer. Either way, I feel like the drummer
Yes.
has an integral part of the relationship of the band and how that translates to an audience. So like, I'm all for listening
Hmm.
to others and having them informed, but how can you speak to just maybe taking the reins? Like, is that something that
Yeah.
they talk to you about, or has anyone talked to you about? Like, sometimes you just have to, I mean, the term dropping bombs is kind of like an old school term, as far as jazz
Hmm.
goes. You can just like slam the kick down, but like making a statement
Uh-huh.
like that, is that something that you've been mentored on, or is that something that you could speak to?
Yeah. Well, the thing that I always try to keep in mind is that it's a scenario to scenario
Mm-hmm.
thing. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if you're playing with someone who you're really comfortable with, you can have the freedom to listen to them and also maintain your personal sound. But if you're in a situation where the bass player is not listening or not agreeing with you, or someone else in the band is doing that,
Mm-hmm.
you may have to drop some bombs, and you should in that situation. I'm just very fortunate that I've had the opportunity to play with a bunch of wonderful musicians where I didn't have to really worry about that.
Yeah,
You
sure.
know, um,
But
but
you're at the
obviously
jam
you
session
do
or
have to do
something,
that
and
in certain
that could happen.
circumstances. Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, yeah. So I'm all for dropping bombs when it's necessary, no
Yeah,
doubt.
and just as I think as a disclaimer, it might be good for the listeners to know it's not really an ego thing. At that point, it's more of a
Oh no,
collective group thing. Like, hey man, let's stay together, for lack of a better word.
well, yeah, it's just to keep everything in line.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Absolutely.
kind of what our job is. Outline the form.
I always think about it as being a conversation, and as the drummer, sometimes you got to make sure the conversation stays on topic. Perfect. I agree.
Yeah.
100% there. Keep this on. Now that I'm moving this here, this is actually might be a. No, it might be a good time. That's so. You know, keeping on the Juilliard tip here for just a couple minutes more here. What, if anything, can you tell people about the whole? We were talking about this earlier. There's a lot of pushback on the culture of Juilliard and how it's, these perfect people, this mold. I mean, famously Miles Davis went to Juilliard, fucking hated it, writes about it.
Yeah.
Granted, he went in a completely different time.
Did he leave after like a week or something?
Yeah, he hated it. There's racist teachers there. People,
yeah.
That's not a thing. But how can I phrase this better? Like, is there a certain old guard at Juilliard that, is there any gatekeeping going on? Is there, are the rumors true? Like what, if there's anything, any gossip, any truths to what we hear on the internet, on, some Adam Neely videos, some, about some other stuff going on at Juilliard, like, are you for the experience, like for instance, some schools just get it bad, and some players have a great time there, like it's just kind of the way the world works. So I mean, where do you stand on that? Like, would you tell anyone and everyone to go to Juilliard, or is there a disclaimer, an asterisk?
No, I wouldn't tell everyone to go to Juilliard. Definitely not. Yeah, so I would say that a lot of these the rumors that you hear about Juilliard, in some sense, are true, and also in some sense aren't. Like we were talking earlier about the like not getting gigs thing or not playing out a lot. Like that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of Juilliard musicians, especially in my division, who are going out and playing a lot. But I mean, there is sort of an old guard, like you said, like that. You kind of have to join the club almost in a respect, because there are a lot of these older musicians who are kind of stuck in their tradition, their ways, which is great if that's what you want to learn, but you have to put up with some stuff that like either you may not want to hear or may not be completely aligned with your particular musical philosophies.
Mm-hmm.
And you just sort of have to take it with a grain of salt. If you take it word by word, everything that people are saying at this school, then you're going to end up kind of like a Juilliard penguin, like you're going to walk around with the suit on and play. Yeah.
Penguin. Oh, that's ridiculous. That's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Don't be a penguin, everybody.
So you have to maintain your own personal integrity. You can't let these people like guide every musical decision that you make. You just take everything that you want to absorb, mm-hmm. and then and discard the stuff that you don't feel is useful. It's the Bruce Lee philosophy, Yeah. And you really have to stick to that philosophy if you want to go to a place like Juilliard, So you kind of have to be strong in that respect.
I love it. I think how can I say I guess you said standing your ground. I feel like it's holding yourself to a standard of which you know exactly what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. So.
Yeah.
So
you have to have a clear picture of what it is that you want to do.
Yeah, it's not quite a. Well, I always said, like, for instance, I went to probably the complete opposite of a school.
Right. Yeah.
Cal Arts, I feel like, is a completely different organization. I would say everyone should go to Cal Arts if they have the money, or if they get a really great scholarship.
Yeah.
So, but Cal Arts to me was a very choose your own adventure school, and as a master's program, which I went there for, I feel like it's a kind of a reverse funnel, where you get thrown in and with all this stuff you can do, and you're like, whoa, 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 and then finally you get to the end of the funnel where it, gets thinner, and you get shot out of the funnel. Like, okay, I know what I'm doing. Whereas, from what I understand, you say you should kind of know what you're doing. So maybe you're going in the funnel, in the back end of the funnel, coming into Juilliard, but then
in the other way.
Do you pop out with all this stuff, all this knowledge at the end?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's a school of specialized knowledge, right? You're not going to go there and learn how to play like Ari Honig,
Yeah. This is a good one.
So yeah, you really have.
Oh, go for it. Sorry.
Yeah. So, you're right. I am going kind of in through the opposite direction. Like I went in with the mindset of knowing that there's only going to be so much that I'll be able to absorb from this place and infuse into something that I already know I want to do.
Yeah.
And the rest, and some of the more like dogmatic stuff just needs to get disregarded. If it's not for me.
Yeah.
But you also have to be open to it. Like the thing about going to Juilliard is you'll hear a lot of stuff that may be dogmatic or like may sound old school, and you just sort of have to absorb it and think about it for a bit before you decide whether or not you can integrate it into your musical journey.
Yeah, this question from Justin, I think, is maybe something that could help us guide it here. How is the tolerance for other musical philosophies at Juilliard, aside from the traditions? Like, is there less space to express yourself creatively outside the traditional pedagogy or curriculum?
Not necessarily. I'd actually say that they're pretty open to your personal creativity and your own self-expression, but they're not going to, like, they'll support you in those endeavors, but they're not going to teach you to go ahead and do that stuff. They're going to teach you, like, they have very strong opinions at the school, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And they're going to express those opinions, but they're not going to stop you from expressing yours.
Of course.
So you kind of just have to be strong-willed in that way,
Yeah. My question about Juilliard is, and did you get into any of the world music side maybe the first question is, does Juilliard have a nice world music program and world percussion program? And if so, did you take advantage of any of those opportunities?
So the world percussion program, so the percussion department, they're classical percussionists, right? They do have hand percussion, and I think someone at the school is studying tabla. I haven't met him, but I think he's there. And I haven't had the chance to explore that yet, but I plan on doing it this upcoming year. So I'm going to split lessons with the primary percussion faculty at that school.
Cool.
What
what axes are you going to learn, or do you intend to learn?
I'm hoping to get into a pretty wide variety of things. I want to learn some mallet percussion. I want to get really pretty good at classical snare drum. But I don't necessarily intend on venturing a lot into the more like world auxiliary stuff, because I already have some knowledge in that area.
Well, you said you got a Pandero
from my
in
time
Brazil.
in Brazil.
So like, yeah, did you study Pandero? Have you taken up Pandero a little more, or because I feel like Pandero is like a very it's like, to me it's like a drum set player's, it's easy to connect to the sounds from the Pandero to a drum set and vice versa because of the low, the high, and the jingles,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like a portable drum set, So I've gotten really into that, definitely. And I did spend some time studying all sorts of different samba percussion, samba like batacuda type of percussion.
Okay.
When I was in Brazil. So I'm just going to stick to the information that I've gotten from those people for the time being. And I think because Juilliard has such a well-known classical music program, I'm going to just try and absorb as much of that as I can before moving on.
Totally. Man, very cool. Well, give Juilliard say hi to Juilliard for us when you go back there for your masters. Wow, very tight.
Definitely
Um,
will.
something I just now kind of want to get into is just, man, what's it like? What's it like living in New York? What I feel like New York City to a lot of jazz musicians in this particular, but also just musicians in general. Man, it's the city that never sleeps. I never felt as safe in New York City at 2 a.m. anywhere, because there's just people walking around. There's everywhere. Like, um, jams end at 4 in the morning. They start at 1 a.m. Like,
That's
the,
right.
the that dynamic of staying up late and sleeping in. Your day starts at 3
Hmm.
p.m. not at 7 a.m. ever. Like, maybe bring us into your
Yeah.
life. What's your day to day? Maybe on not a school day. What's it like as a aspiring jazz drummer in New York City?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, you kind of nailed it. It's staying up late and sleeping in late.
Dollar slices and
That's,
just two bros
dude.
and
Yeah, dollar
smalls.
slices. Yeah, halal truck food.
Street meat.
Um, yeah, man. That's basically it. It's, yeah, street meat. It's practicing and going to jam sessions that start super late. Going out to a lot of uh, late night gigs, because that's typically when other musicians that you may want to hang around are finishing their gigs and going out to see some music just as an audience member, so you get to hang out with them a little bit.
So, how
Um,
on average, how many shows are you going to attend a week or a month? Maybe either
my
one.
Yeah, I think in the week I want to get to like 3 or 4. I don't want to go out every night just because I'm working on this album. Um, but when I was a freshman, man, I would go out every night. I would go with Jarian actually.
Yeah,
We
that's
were
rad.
roommates, and we would go out to Smalls all the time. Yeah.
That's so cool. How'd you guys get into Smalls?
If you're a musician and you're underage, they'll still let you in
Oh, right
for the
on.
jam session portion. So you have to get there at like 1 a.m.
Damn, damn,
Yeah.
dang. That's rough. But I guess that's the. To me, like, I got to go to New York and I stayed in Bushwick for a month, and it was so much fun. Um,
Wow.
and I kicked it
I
there.
love Bushwick.
Yeah, it rules. It was like 2014, and uh,
Hmm.
it was me and Louie for a month, and
Oh,
and
wow.
it was great. We were staying on. I don't know if you remember this player, David Zakarian. If David's ever watching this, what up, David? You rule. Thank you for letting me and Louie stay on your couch. But we stayed in his place in Bushwick, and yeah, dude, it was crazy. It was super fun, but I am just like such a fan of sleep that
Me too.
when I got back, man, I was just like, dude, let's sleep, y'all. let's 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 hang, like, but let's go to bed. Also, so to me, like, the culture of New York, this late night, um, gosh, it's just such a you have to be very dedicated. So, like, can you speak a little bit to about the
Definitely.
dedication of, I mean, some of your older contemporaries of, are they staying out, like, what is the floor past the jam session scene in New York, and how can people um what's the next step? Is it, I mean, I when I was there, it was about, it wasn't so much about jam sessions, but it was going and actually meeting people at those jam sessions and having them over to your place for a rehearsal or a session, or like, like,
Hmm.
it. I think it's important for everyone out there that's listening, that the hang is very important, um, for musicians and
Oh my
and,
God,
and
yeah.
and artists and people and for your friends. Like, as much as you like playing music with them, it's also nice to go to the park with them, to see them in the daylight.
Definitely, definitely.
Like,
Well,
don't
man,
play
yeah,
all the things with
yeah,
them 3 nights a week.
yeah. No, definitely not. Yeah, I like to say that a jam session it's an opportunity to get out there and play in front of people, but really the reason why so many people are going to the jam sessions all the time is because it's a social opportunity. You
Right.
know, you're
Right.
trying to expand your network.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's really the main function, in my view, of a jam session is to get around people that you may want to play with in the future, you know? And so I guess to speak to your question about what the next step is, I think first, before you get to the next step, you have to be consistent. You have to go to certain spots consistently, because typically there are people who are regulars at a lot of these places, and you want
Mm-hmm.
to go find them and be around them. And if you show your face more, then they'll get used to seeing you around, and you can maybe develop some sort of network with them.
Yeah.
Um, and then from there, yeah, it's just getting to be people's friends, man. You know, like you said, you don't want to go out and play all the things with them 3 nights a week. You know,
Right.
um, and then that those sort of relationships will evolve into their own thing over time. And who knows what opportunities you'll gain from those things.
Right.
It's sort of different for everyone.
Right. Do you have a
Like I
good
know,
network
I
of,
know.
of people out there? Have you developed a pretty okay?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah. I've developed a pretty good network. It's cool because I mean, Juilliard soup is completely down with you going to the jam sessions as much as you want. Um, so a lot of people who had already been at Juilliard and who were sort of already integrated in the scene, they can kind of propel you into the scene, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, man. So I've been fortunate to develop a pretty good network of people out here,
Very
which is
cool.
great.
Um, what would you say your favorite spots to go in New York are?
Well, man, I love Smalls. I think that's sort of the typical thing. Smalls has a reputation of being sort of like a cutthroat jam session, but if you just go there and do your thing and you go there consistently, like the cutthroat thing goes away. You know,
Yeah.
it's sort of like that's a place where there really is sort of like a rite of passage kind of deal. Like you have to deal with some cutthroat stuff at the beginning, like some
Yeah.
people vibing you and
Maybe
whatever.
talk about I mean, when I was in New York and I was heading to Smalls, like yeah, like you, like every night, and I always found it. Just like any jam session, there's a friggin' million drummers. So,
Oh yeah.
and as soon as that chair is empty, you gotta walk up there and just sit down. It's not even
Hmm.
about there. I mean, there is no Gilbert calling up the next musician. That just wastes a bunch of time.
Right.
And something I found at Small is no crazy harshness towards it, but that part of the jam session community always kind of irked me the wrong way because it was very like
Hmm.
there was no turns, there was no, and also horn players in specific, like they just go and go and go, and so for the drummers it's really hard to get up. So, um,
Hmm.
yeah, how do you deal with that? And what's do you is there do you trade off? Have you ever traded off just during a song and just fucking like
No, I haven't.
okay,
I haven't. But I will say that like that what you just kind of described, that's that's not particularly applicable to Small specifically.
okay,
Like that's just sort of how it is everywhere in New York. And that was like a wake up call for me when I got here. Like I went to Dizzy's one night and I mentioned my name a bunch of times. I thought it was going to be like similar to how the Panama 66 Jam was. Like you mention your name, you get up and play. You put your name on a list or something, you get up and play.
yeah,
But I had to go up there and mention my name a bunch of times and put my name on the list a bunch of times, and I still didn't get up and play that night.
yeah,
They still didn't call me up to play. So sometimes you just sort of have to. I mean, that's just the New York environment. You kind of have to fight for a spot.
mm-hmm,
It's unfortunate that it's like that. But there are just so many people here. And everybody is irking to play because there might not be a lot of people who are playing gigs. You
right,
know,
right,
um, and so this is like their time to play, you know,
Mhm.
like their main time to play.
Yeah, I feel that, but I also feel like there should be some little, some respect there. Whereas like you just
No, there
gotta
should be.
like,
No, I
you know,
completely agree.
to like I have this vision in my head as everyone just smiling and everyone's like having fun trading courses, and this like I have it in my head. There's like this circle of drummers that just keeps going up and up and down, up and down, and like it's really funny. But that doesn't happen as often as I would like. But that is good to know for everyone that's looking to go to New York. Just sit on the drum stool.
Yeah, just
They'll
go.
kick you off
Just
if they don't know you, maybe, but just actually stay there and just play.
it's
Have
it's
fun.
really a persistence game.
Yeah.
It's a persistence game. You just have to go there, and you got to sit down. And if they kick you off, got to try. It's really just trying again.
Mm-hmm.
Trial and error. You know,
Squeaky
keep on
grease
going.
gets the wheel, man.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So let's kind of dive in with our remaining time here. I want to get into your record that's going to come out here soon called The Game.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
Let's talk about it.
yeah, produced by Ulysses Owens Jr. Wow.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
maybe tell us the personnel, tell us the story behind the title, and when we
Hmm.
can expect it to come out.
Yeah. 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 So where do I start? I guess we'll start off with just like the origins of the whole thing. So I did a lot of this past year online, a lot of this past school year online, and Ulysses was my ensemble coach. And really, the way that the album came to be was that Ulysses was trying to find a way for me to get credits. You know, I was one of the only people that wasn't in person playing because the COVID situation in New York was still pretty bad at that time. And so one day, it wasn't even my idea. He was like, "We got to figure out a way for you to get credits, man. How about we put an album together?" And so I completely jumped on that opportunity. I was like, "Hell yeah,
Uh
let's
huh.
do an album, please." And he's like, "All right, I'll run you through the whole process, and I'll be your producer." And so we just sort of went from there, man. He ran me through the same process that he would put his clients through because he is a producer. Like that's one of his main
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
In addition to being a drummer, he's a really good producer, and he has all these artists. Um, so he ran me through his process, man, and he made me put a band together. He made me put together this whole concept, and the way that the concept came about. So what it's really about is chess obsessed musicians. That's kind of the whole concept behind the game. Because when I was stuck at home, I had the opportunity to learn chess. My girlfriend actually taught me how to play chess, and I got really obsessed with it pretty quickly. I watched Queen's Gambit, fell in love with that, and I realized like I knew a lot of musicians, a lot of other musicians. I started talking to them about this obsession, and they're like, "Man, I love chess too. Like, how about we get together and play sometime?" And so I sort of got curious and was like, "Well, who else could have been a music like a who else like who was a famous musician um could have had this sort of side passion, this sort of other thing that they did."
Mhm.
Turns out a lot of like really famous musicians and people that I admire, that a lot of people admire, they have this obsession with chess. Like Bob Dylan was a huge chess player, Bono, David Bowie. And so I wrote songs about, so, and they all got interviewed about this particular topic, this obsession of theirs. And so I wrote songs about kind of how they felt about the game and stories that they told about meeting different chess players and sitting down to play chess and what it does for them.
Mhm.
Um, just to sort of highlight the connection between these two separate things and how jazz in particular, and chess, they require a lot of the same mental faculties, you know, like you have to be very strategic. You have to have a bit of foresight to like sort of anticipate what people are going to do after
Mhm.
you play a certain note. You need to be very creative if things don't go the way that you expected them to, you know.
Yeah.
So all of that is sort of infused into this project.
Man, so how many tracks are we gonna
It's
expect?
12 It's 12 tracks.
All original
Um,
Johnny stuff, or is there
all it's all original. Yeah.
right on?
Yeah. It's sort of like a more modern jazz kind of feel. I tried to like we were talking about earlier about infusing both like the backbeat side of my upbringing
Mm-hmm.
and like the jazz stuff. It's both very present on that album.
Very
And
cool.
there's a lot of interlude stuff too with like some free improvisation as well.
Oh,
So
cool,
it's a whole mishmash. Yeah, it's pretty. I'm
man.
very excited about
Very
it.
cool. Yeah, I know. Justin here is big into chess. He says he's still gonna see you at the chess night when you get back. He's been hosting like a chess night every
Yeah, yeah,
week
yeah.
or so or something. Uh, the
Totally.
the chestnuts are out there. I know. I am not a chess guy, but I did watch the Queen's Gambit, and after I watched the whole thing, I did download a chess app on my phone. But I've spent about
Nice.
5 minutes on that chess app. I think there's just something about losing I don't like.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I feel that. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, but I love people that love chess. I love a lot of my friends love chess, so I like my friends. They're cool. It's all good. Just not for me. Let's go get ramen instead.
Yeah.
Let's go get a slice. Come
Yeah.
on. So something that I think is really cool and specific about this record is that it's being produced by Ulysses Owens Jr. So, uh, what role is he playing as your producer? Um,
hmm
and yeah, what decisions is he helping you make, and or what burdens is he taking on this project?
Yeah. So I guess the big thing that he really helped me with was drafting a pretty detailed concept down to like what albums I wanted my album to sound like, um, and what kind of group I wanted to have, and why I wanted the specific band members to be in that group. Um, we put together this whole like 3 or 4 page album concept document listing all these various things, um, and talking about why it is that I wanted to put the album out, um, and just like the details of a lot of the concepts, track listings, all that stuff. He really helped me with that. And then in addition to that, he also helped me um, with fundraising. That was a big thing. He helped me sort of figure that out because I mean this is my first big project,
Uh
my
huh.
first like full scale album. So he helped me a lot with just organizing, or he sort of gave me tips on how to raise money for it. And then he also helped me out with what studio is the best and all that stuff. But I handled a lot of the direct communication. So he gave because he was still functioning as my teacher. So
Mhm.
he gave me a lot of a lot of freedom to communicate with all the different people who were involved in this project and sort of drive the car in that way.
Sure. I'm
Um,
curious to know what albums that you're. I mean, we don't have any clips, of the record right now. But yeah, what
yeah,
albums inspired the record? Which ones do you, if you remember, that you put down that you wanted this record
yeah,
to imitate or sound like? And
yeah.
when
So
you do that too, you're thinking sonically, right? Or
I'm
sonically
thinking
sound,
sonically,
and also,
absolutely.
so it's not like, but also maybe, yeah, something you didn't say yet was the personnel and the band too. So make sure
Yeah,
you grab that in there too.
absolutely. Yeah. So the big few albums, or I guess the just like the band concepts that I kind of wanted to emulate. I kind of wanted to fuse the concepts of like that Nate Smith Kinfolk record.
Mm,
I
love
wanted
that
to
record.
fuse that with the Chicoria trio with Brian Blade and Christian McBride,
Okay,
and the Bad Plus. Those were the three
right
um,
on.
sort of big ones.
Big drums.
Yeah, big drums. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Dave King got a lot of flack for a lot of those records. That one, uh, the one with the that kind of made them famous. They had a some rock cover on there. I don't quite remember the.
Oh, they had the Tom Sawyer cover on there, right?
It was I wish I
Was
like
it Flim, that record, the blue record?
possibly. I want to say it was like a yellow record. Anyway, yeah,
Okay.
Dave King got a lot of flack for the drums being loud, and the mixing engineer was like, "No, dude, just let it happen, man, because it's gonna stand out." And like he said, he caught a lot of flack from like his
Mm.
contemporaries for having such a loud presence on that record.
Mm.
But like I mean, when I worked with Kamau on my records, he would always say like, no, let's make the drums louder, more the times than
Mm.
one, because of like, not only are you the leader on the record, but you're, like, you have a voice on these compositions, you know. So I think it's important
Right.
to have those sounds. And yeah, I mean, just to say, Kinfolk, drummer record. Brian Blade is just his own voice, and then like,
Mm-hmm.
Dave King is just a third of that trio, which is a huge 33.333% of the bad
Yeah.
plots.
Oh, yeah.
I would give him more percentage if I could, but there's trying to keep it equal here. So yeah, all those records. I can't wait to hear this one. If those are the three that you're basing it off of, sonically, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be
I'm trying to
killing.
make it sort of trying to put it in that vein a little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I'm doing it with a quartet, so I'm doing it just to list off the personnel real quick. It's these are all people I met in New York. So Esteban Castro is on piano. He's a young prodigy. He just got to Juilliard. Incredible award-winning pianist, amazing guy. And then we have Chris Bittner on the tenor, who actually just came out with his own record. Wonderful tenor player.
Does is he talking to Dove all the time?
Yeah, he's Dove's friend. Yeah,
Okay, cool. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
great. He's a great player.
yeah, yeah. So I got him on the record, and then I got Cole Davis on the bass, virtuoso bass player. And I mean, it's just great to play with these guys. Yeah, shout out to those guys for sure.
Shout out Cole. Shout out Chris.
Shout out
Shout
Cole.
out Esteban. Nice. I think Chris goes by C Biddy, right?
C Biddy, that's
That
right.
shit's funny.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
see him and Dove doing like they're just nerding out on sax stuff on Instagram Live.
Totally.
I think that's
Yeah,
hilarious.
they went to UNCG together,
Right.
the Miles Davis Institute. Yeah,
Great.
yeah, man.
Cool how
Yeah,
those
so
worlds
that's the
collide.
band, man.
Right on,
Yeah,
dude.
it's crazy.
Man, I can't wait to hear this. Are you gonna leak any singles before, or is this just kind of is it under a tight lockdown? No pun intended.
Haha. Well, so right now we're working with a label. We just started working with a label to put it out. So the specifics of the how the release is gonna go, I don't have that info yet.
Mm,
I don't think I'm allowed to
I understand.
express that info yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Very cool. Who's I mean, do you have the art done? Do you have the I remember we were
yeah,
talking, you
yeah,
said
yeah.
everything's mixed, it's mastered, it's ready, it's just being
That's right.
we're talking about distribution at this point.
Yeah, it's the release strategy is being discussed right
Mhm.
now.
Mhm.
So yeah, we are talking about that. So in terms of the guys that worked on the record, aside from the players and Ulysses, of course, there was Chris Horishak. He did the album art. He did this wonderful digipack for me. This incredible editing. He was able to edit in different musicians into a chessboard, like pictures of different musicians.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's really sick. Um, and then we got Dave Darlington to do the mastering and the mixing.
Right on.
And yeah, he's got his own label right now called Double D Records.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
It's a working
Um,
title.
and he has a studio too called Two Bass Hit.
Is that where you recorded
Um,
it?
no, we recorded it in New Jersey at this place called Trading Eights.
Okay.
And Chris Sulit is the engineer there. Wonderful engineer who did a lot of Ulysses records.
Right on. Cool. Wow. Well, so when's it gonna come out?
It's
Tentatively.
coming out in September. Yeah, tentatively, like late September.
All right. So keep an eye out, everybody, for the game release.
Yeah.
So maybe I know we kind of have to split a little early today, but let people know where they can find you and where they can find some of um, your music. Your website is it www dot what?
JohnnySteeleDrums.com. And then you can find me on Instagram at _SteelDrums.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can find me there. You can find my blog there.
Oh yeah, Beat
And
Speak.
then
Sorry, we didn't get to that.
yeah, BeatSpeak. Yeah, yeah. So it's just it's a music blog. It's about all things. It's mostly drums. I do a lot of gear reviews. I'm going to be doing a lot of gear reviews. I'm going to be doing a lot of tributes to certain musicians. Some like philosophical stuff too. Just talking about like the musician's experience. I'm gonna do a whole post about about the Juilliard audition process too.
Hey,
So
that's a great idea.
yeah.
You can reference
So
this
yeah,
this video later in case you
yeah,
need
that's
to
all going to
remember.
be on JohnnySteeleDrums.com, and then you can check me out on SoundCloud as well. At it's _SteelDrums as well. So
Right. Great. Well, Johnny, man, such a good time.
yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
So good to have you here. Before we go, everybody that's here, make sure we get this one out. Yes. Please crank our snares. We have a donate button and the About section in our Twitch channel. If you're so kind, throw us a cup of coffee or a slice of pizza, if you will. And that helps keep the lights on here at the drum stream. We are back, by the way. We had a nice 2-week break. I was in Big Bear last week, and we had a great time, me and the wife. So very happy to be back. We will be back next week, next Tuesday. We will announce the guest on Monday. And Johnny, again, I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Hey, man, thanks for having me on.
Enjoy the rest of your evening in New York City.
Thank you so much, man.
And
Thank you. Hey, you have a good day too, man.
I will, dude. All right, y'all. We are out. Bye-bye.
Yeah.